Hi, my name is Tom Scoder, and I'm the marketing manager here at CivicSolar. Thank you very much for joining us here today. We're going to be talking about the LG RESU 10H battery, and I'm joined right now by Chris Shirley, our product manager here at CivicSolar for all things storage, as well as Lynn Tran, a member of the LG Chem team.
So, Lynn, would you mind just giving us a brief introduction, kind of giving us your background as well, and then obviously we'll dive right in here.
Okay. Lynn Tran, sales manager for LG Chem out here based in the Bay Area. Have experience supporting utility scale to commercial and industrial, and now residential batteries for their lithium ion products.
Great. Also got Chris Shirley here on the line too, and he is our product manager here at CivicSolar for all things storage. Chris, can you hear us okay?
Cool. So thanks everybody for joining us for the webinar. Let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so I wanted to quickly run through a handful of policy updates that we're seeing across the country. I know we're touching a lot of different markets here in the U.S. and the Caribbean right now, and definitely want to just highlight on the last year's activity in specifically the storage space, and run through a couple exciting updates. So California is right now in step 2 of their self-generation incentive program, and that covers all state IOU utilities, so like PG&E, SDG&E, Southern California Edison, SoCal Gas. All of those have right now an open application process for residential and commercial storage projects. Currently, the rebates for residential $400 a kilowatt hour, and for commercial with the ITC, it's $290 a kilowatt hour. And the program was expected to be fully subscribed quickly, and it hasn't been. There's still some openings for that step 2 funding, and once full subscription happens there, they'll step down a $50 a kilowatt hour to the next step, and that will open probably 20 to 30 days after the close of this step. So that's ongoing right now. You can get your applications in. An LG Chem battery fully qualifies, and it's a pretty rich incentive for the system. It's definitely worth looking at if you have customers in California. New York has a NYSERDA rebate right now. It's a little complicated. It's more of it requires a lot of work up front, but they will also be rolling out, and that incentive is 50% of the cost of the system, with many different steps throughout the process. But they're specifically looking at multiple applications for the storage utilization, so like doing both time of use and demand charge management or backup, for instance, which the LG Chem battery would satisfy. You can do TOU, time discharge, and do backup for the customer. If you stack both of those functions in your application, you should be able to get the rebate. We'll probably be seeing more statewide energy storage incentives coming in the next year, but for right now, it's more of a pilot project approach. So it's rolling applications. Applications are open right now. Massachusetts has a energy storage incentive, which is in development right now. There's been a lot of state mandates around coming up with a plan for implementation. They've kind of led the market in demonstrating a value for energy storage and coupled with renewables, and so I think we're going to be we'll see in probably 2018 a launch of an incentive at the state level for Massachusetts. Hawaii has been floundering a little bit in terms of their energy storage incentives. I think the last they had on the table was a 25% state tax credit on energy storage, but I don't believe that passed the House. But right now, it could be as much as 25%, and there's been some uptick in of excitement at a policy level in the state. So I would say keep an eye out for Hawaii. If that's your market, obviously you're very well aware of all of the need for energy storage in that space, and so I think that we'll start to see some more state level rebates, probably taking the form of a rebate at this point. Maryland has instituted a 30% state tax credit, which goes live in 2018. That's targeted at residential systems, LG Chem being a great application for that. And Nevada has passed the governor just signed a bill that would put in place an incentive, but it's not been defined. I think it has to go through several different other committees and hoops, but that should be coming in the near future, probably another live for 2018 incentive. So that wraps up the state, and so I'd pass it over to Lynn to do the LG Chem presentation, which you guys all signed up for.
Appreciate everyone taking the time. I wanted to first kind of dive in a little bit about who LG Chem is and how we're different, and then continue on into the RESU 10H product itself. First and foremost, LG Chem, we are a chemical company first. Our LG Electronics is on the solar side, which many of you may be familiar with, but we are a separate company. And personally, in aligning my career here, you can see that the bulk of our revenue comes from our basic materials side of the business, while the majority of our R&D is being spent on battery storage, which to a lot of the top developers in the world signifies that we are a long-term player in the market and are positioning ourselves as such to be able to support what we think is going to be a very big industry. LG Chem, when you read out there from GTM reports and such that the storage space is following the electric vehicle space, we wholeheartedly agree. I can say from the electric vehicle success on LG Chem side, literally the other side of the house from where my team sits, is definitely been very successful, and the same type of cell that's being manufactured at those economies of scale has enough data performance. We have over 600,000 vehicles on the streets today with 0 safety infractions, and what the performance of that cell is what we know known to be applicable for the stationary market. We make pretty much every battery that's on the market today, just being a chemical company. However, what we know of the cell from the EV space is why we're adopting it to the stationary space here. So we think internally we're going to continue to see these two markets take up our time. This is a bit more of a bragging slide, but there is some importance here. On the left side, our automotive customers, we have 28 programs with every major automotive manufacturer out there. And what that means is that we're doing something right. And with the safety track record such as ourselves, it's just very important to the automotive industry, being that they have the highest and most strict safety standards out of everything. So effectively, the stationary market should be rather smooth sailing from that perspective. And being that we're the type of cell that we're using that's been largely adopted by the automotive industry is a big reason why we're taking it to the stationary side. We have our manufacturing, globally. We are a global company. It also means we don't have all of our eggs in one basket, so to speak. We do some manufacturing here in North America, in Michigan, Holland, Michigan, conveniently located to the Detroit area, as you'd think it would be. But what's great about this is the same manufacturing lines that are doing the electric vehicle cells are the same that are supplying the cells that go into the stationary pack. So however we can be flexible and move with the market, we're definitely going to be able to support. What I wanted to point out here is sort of LG Chem's track record, not so much the technical information, but we do 2 types of cells, yes. But what it says is that we have a track record, and it definitely shows where we're going in the future. Supporting the electric vehicle space, the anticipation is to have a new cell every 2 years, and that R&D money is going to be spent appropriately. So we're going to be continuing to develop better and improved products for the market as we continue on. The cell with shorter with the two tabs, that is effectively the Chevy Bolt cell, and then the elongated cell is actually for the Chevy Volt, the most recent one. So you can see how our products that are being developed for the stationary side are following the same roadmap as the electric vehicle market. And for the RESU 10H, we are using the GH3 cell in it. So sort of talking from the inside out, LG Chem, again, as a chemical company, we make the lithium recipe and then the materials inside the anode, in between the anode and cathode. There's a polymer with a ceramic particle that actually is a big reason why LG Chem has the safety and performance record that they do. We make the materials that are in between the anode and cathode, the lithium itself. We manufacture the cell within our own manufacturing plants, and then onward to the final module product. So by having all of that manufacturing done under one scope allows for the high quality control that we're able to deliver to the market. And that's just us being a long-term player as a manufacturer, as a chemical company. And I think that's important to highlight in terms of the type of technology that we're using today. I won't go in too much about lithium iron phosphate. It comes up in conversation, I think the most on the residential side. And just a comment that all lithium batteries are have the potential to be dangerous, and much consideration can be done around the lithium iron phosphate type. So we can advance. I just wanted to highlight here the anatomy of the RESU 10H itself. I'm not sure if the images are coming through here, but you'll have lithium cells on one side of the unit, and then on the other is a DC-DC power converter. And behind that is you'll find a heat sink that'll displace the RESU away from the wall just a little bit. It's effectively, you'll never see the inside of the RESU. The only access you'll have is in behind a small trap door to the DC disconnects and communication connections. So yeah, you can do the next one. So what to expect out of LG being a long-term player here is more lithium cells coming to the market. I don't have any line of sight into the new cells coming into a residential product, but we are getting our new cell as soon as January 2018. So I think we're going to be a reliable partner to get aligned with at the early stages of the market, and we're looking forward to supporting that. If out there, yeah, thanks. Oh, go ahead. I know that LG Chem is rather shy when it comes to being out there in the marketplace, but I think LG is a very common household name. But when approached for, why LG, most importantly, we're a well-renowned $20 billion profitable business with a proven track record over 20 years. And that puts us in the best position for being able to support a home-type battery product. And yeah, if there's, sorry, go ahead. If there's any way to take questions before about how LG Chem fits into the LG Chem family, I'll ask here before going into the product.
Yeah, Lynn, we do have a couple questions popping up. They are a little bit more on the technical side here, so I think it'd probably be best if we kind of went through the rest of your presentation, and then we'll leave some time at the end to address the questions.
Okay. So for our RESU launch, we have two types of batteries, high voltage and low voltage. For the purpose of our conversation today, we will be reviewing the RESU 10H, which is compatible with SolarEdge. So on the unit itself, here you can see we're using our JH3 elongated type cells stacked up to 155 volts nominal. We have some power electronics. The only accessible part that you'll see is behind the lower right-hand door. There are no tools required to access the DC disconnect. However, I would take just from personal experience and personal pain, there is a release button to push before removing the latch and then therefore the door. So you can tug on that really hard and it can even hurt yourself. So on the back side, the wall brackets will come pre-installed on the chassis itself, and this is already fit to the mounting bracket, which will keep the RESU displaced to allow for that DC-DC heat sink that you see behind the power electronics. You can put it down. On some technical specs on the product itself, what I would like to specifically highlight are we're providing 3 different notes on temperature for the RESU 10H. Time and temperature are what's going to degrade your battery the quickest, and temperature being the more severe of the two. So much of the unknown variables of the environments of what RESU 10H would be subject to is remedied when these are installed indoors. So the #1 preference is to have the RESU 10H installed indoor. You'll notice that it's not branded LG Chem, it's branded LG, the same logo as the refrigerators and TVs, and they're very much so positioning this to be a home appliance type product. So if you can install these indoors, we try to make them look attractive to be put inside. And you're really looking at staying within that sweet zone of the recommended operating temperatures. So the standard 10-year warranty, however, if you can get the most life out of your battery, a little baby will go a long way. If you do have to install it, or indoor is not an option, garage is next. And then lastly, outdoors. These are outdoor rated, however, don't install them, in direct sunlight or in front of the sprinkler. And if you are limited to that, create some sort of shelter to protect the RESU itself. Final thing I'll mention outside of the storage temperatures is this is a Class 9 hazardous material, which means that if you are going to be transporting, shipping, receiving this RESU product or any lithium battery above 66 pounds, that you need to have DOT certification. And this is not an LG Chem requirement. This is just something that we're bringing awareness to the market of, that, by law, and this is what you need to have. So it's DOT, it's not LG Chem, but we are providing information about how to establish this in your company and where to get the online resource for getting the certification, taking care of yourself, and also a discount code to offset the cost of getting the coursework done. So trying to make things really easy in terms of supporting RESU, and don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but there is a requirement for shipping and receiving lithium batteries. But I don't think that's that's common knowledge yet right now in the market, and I think it definitely should be. So be negligent if we were to not tell you while we knew the information. So if there's any non-battery related, but just around this certification, I would give myself as a resource to you. So when you receive the RESU 10H, it'll be 1 battery per box per pallet. Unlike the picture here, they will come with the appropriate UN code and markings for it being the Class 9 product it is. And inside, you'll have the RESU itself, the mounting bracket, and 2 pieces of literature. Standard tools and equipment to install the unit. You don't need a manual lift. There are handles that are sold separately. I've heard countless times that they're worth their weight in gold. It's a square box and it's easy to handle or to hold and maneuver, but it just makes it feel so much more secure when you just have these well-positioned handles to lift it up. It has a lot more security to it. So those are sold separately, one per toolbox or tool bag, and you can use them over and over again. I would say, you can go ahead and advance. There are clearance requirements that have to be taken into consideration for your install, not around hazardous material, combustibles or hazardous flammable materials. There's clearance requirements on all sides of the RESU, most notably from 24 inches from the floor. And these are can only be wall mounted, and these cannot be floor mounted. And one item of sort of best practice that I like to mention is that it's, these are very expensive and costly. They're very expensive and a pain actually to just transport these units to and fro. So when you do get your product, keep the lid on it and keep the packaging intact before until you actually need to mount it onto the wall. So you'd be ready to address the battery installation. You open up the lid, take out the mounting bracket. It will be on top, and then close the lid back. And your time is mostly going to be spent getting that mounting bracket on the wall. And once you have that, grab your handles, lift the lid, and then pick it up and place the RESU, secure it with the 2 bolts. It's very quick install, but it is a heavy type apparatus, and the last thing we want to do is get a unit all the way there, and then someone trips over it and spills water or something of that nature when we could have easily just had it closed. So keep the lid on it until it's ready to be installed is definitely going to be a best practice to get used to. We hope that there's a lot of these RESUs getting out there and installed. We put installation checkpoints throughout all of our literature because our track record in Europe, where this product is already on the market, 40% of the RMA calls have all been installation error. And it's such a simple install. Again, most of your time is spent on that mounting bracket, but maybe it's so simple that it's easy to get colors mixed up somehow. But the RESU battery is a really good beacon for when something isn't operating right. But most of the time, it's really just a DC dumb box. It's a gas tank to the system. And most of the time, if there's an error, it's going to be part of the system, not the gas tank. So use the installation checkpoints just not to get complacent with all these installations that you'll be doing, just because our experience teaches us that just these simple wires is where a lot of the RMA calls are coming from. Always words of caution, no flammable or explosives nearby. The RESU itself, this is another one of those things that are remedied when it's commonly placed indoors. There is, even though the SolarEdge inverter knows how to control the RESU and within all the warranty parameters, it does have its own internal fault to shut the unit down in the event that it needs to. So next. We provide both RESU related and SolarEdge related troubleshooting guides in order to help units in the field. It should be rather simple on LG Chem side, again, just being the DC block. But we do know that we're only able to equip the best tools in your hands by providing you the appropriate tools. And we welcome feedback on how the troubleshooting guide can improve as we start gaining experience with the product in some of these first installs. Trying to make things as simple as possible in working with LG Chem. There is a installation certification test that you have to get in order to be an approved installer for those warranties to be in play. And we trying to make a single file sort of document that you can go and get access to all these active links to all the resources that you'll need related to DOT certification, the installer certification test, user's guide, That's where I put information on how to establish a hazmat team at your organization. Anything related to the RESU 10H product is all in a single file for you. So hopefully that makes things easy.
Yes, thanks, Lynn. We're gonna, we do have a lot of questions coming in here. Chris, I think what we'll do is have you kind of go over the last couple of slides here, and then we're really going to devote some time at the end to run through some of these questions for Lynn.
Perfect. I'll be quick on mine. Great. So I just wanted to run through a quick example of how to use the RESU 10 to do some time of use arbitrage, some backup, and give some some real numbers that we're seeing in the field. Excuse me. So I took a San Diego Gas and Electric tariff, one of their new NIM 2.0 tariffs, to show how time of use shifting could work for an application of this battery type. Since it's cycle, this is rated for high cycle life. So if you look at the tariff, there's two sections of the year. There's a summer and a winter. And the summertime has an on-peak period of 50. They're paying 50 cents, 50.6 cents a kilowatt hour, and off-peak they're paying 22.7. There is a semi-peak, which is in between these two time periods, and it's I think for this rate it's 30 cents. But basically what we can do is ensure that in this case that we charge the battery when it's off peak and discharge the battery when it's on peak. So what we can get out of that is a differential between the 27.9 and the 50.6 cents a kilowatt hour, and that would be basically an energy credit produced by the system that would apply to the bill. Also in this case, or for this utility, there's also electric vehicle rate, for instance. That's something to look at for other tariffs, is if there's an EV rate with a TOU differential. In this case, it's 30 cents, 30.5 cents a differential. So now it only applies in the summertime. So what we would do is set the discharge for the time of use to basically happen in the summertime, and then basically be stand-up backup for the wintertime. The wintertime is only 1.5 cents difference, so there's no reason to really do a time discharge there, and you can make your battery last longer. And when you do TOU discharge, when you're alternating from on and off peak, you ultimately, you can't really retain much. Everything that you do retain for a potential backup moment would be calculated. So we could take this battery and use half of it for TOU and half of it always on reserve for backup. That could be one method, because essentially we would just be trying to ride the backup or ride the outage till another solar event where the battery would charge. So Tom, can you go to the next slide? So the draft warranty of LG Chem it shows a throughput of 27.6 megawatt hours or 10 years. If we use the 27.6 or 27,000 kilowatt hours as a throughput, and basically multiply that by the differential of the TOU rate, we would get about $7,700 in time of use arbitrage, or $8,400 on the EV rate. So there's a pretty significant over the throughput value of the battery. There's a pretty significant payback on the battery, and simultaneously the customer is getting backup for half of the year in this rate tariff situation. There could be others where the differential is less and throughout the entire year, or it could just be less. But you can kind of throttle the performance of the payback period of the battery. In this case, it probably covered maybe the cost of installation and materials and kind of the break even at the end of the life of the battery. But they also would get the service of the backup throughout the life, which is something that you can't claim for a traditional backup system. So it's pretty phenomenal. You know, you can kind of the main way to figure these numbers out is just delving into the TOU rate differential, so the on and off peak, and then multiply that by the throughput of what the battery is warranted for, which is this 27,600, and you can start to get a quick back of the napkin number for your customer on this system. And you know, since you would be using it half of the year, you would have twice the life of the battery. So you could start to match this with a full 25-year performance. You know, it's a pretty dynamic system, and this is also not including the SGIP incentives or other state incentives or the federal tax credit that you can apply to renewable systems if you're charging the system at least 75% with solar. And all of this, you know, you can ensure with the storage and LG Chem solution. So I just wanted to, you know, do some quick numbers for you guys to get a sense of, you know, where things are lying in the TOU arbitrage space, and you know, it's pretty exciting. So that's all I wanted to cover right now.
Awesome, thanks, Chris. It really kind of helps to see those calculations on the screen there. And so, yeah, now we're going to open it up to some questions here that we had for Lynn. One that we've been seeing a couple times here, Lynn, is can the RESU be used with any other inverter besides a SolarEdge inverter?
For right now, it's only SolarEdge. We expect to have the SMA inverter available in September. Their high voltage inverter.
Great, thank you. Another one we had coming in, a couple people were asking about temperature requirements with the LG Chem. For instance, we have Jacob who mentioned that we are in Vermont and get temperatures under 20 degrees Fahrenheit. What would happen if one of these were installed outside?
If it was installed outside, you would run the risk of falling outside of the temperature ranges on the warranty itself. Operating temperatures are 14 to 113 degrees Fahrenheit, and so indoor installations would definitely be the route to go for Vermont, given those cold temperatures.
Awesome. Yep. Good to know. We also had some people asking about the DOT requirement. Alex was wondering, does this DOT requirement also include from the installer's warehouse to the customer's door?
I would advise to check your own resources on that. I really can't advise. All I know is just for shipping and receiving. If there's additional requirements for your warehouse for housing the Class 9 materials, then I wouldn't be the right person to direct that to. But shipping and receiving and transporting is the DOT requirement.
Excellent. And I do, well, we can have time here for a couple more questions that I can go through, but also did want to let everyone know, if you go on the webinar sidebar here, we did include a handout, a PDF that's attached with various resources, what we've been talking about during the webinar. We are going to send out follow-up emails with a recording and the slides as well, but some important links that were mentioned in this webinar you can find on the side in that handout, such as the test that Lynn mentioned, and also more information on the DOT requirements, FYI. That's on the side under the handouts tab. We also had some questions, Lynn, about the overall round trip efficiency. You know, would you mind touching a little bit more on that?
Yes, the 94.5% round trip efficiency. That's spelled out on the spec sheet. Sorry, kind of a direct question regarding the round trip efficiency.
Yep. Excellent. And let's see here. We also have a question from Matthias here asking, can the RESU 10H be set for self-consumption mode besides a time of use mode?
Any operations of how the RESU is controlled is a SolarEdge question. So I do provide resources on the different applications that the storage products are available to do with the RESU, and I would direct you there.
But just quickly, yes, it can with the electricity meter coupled with the storage SolarEdge unit, you can do self-consumption for the Hawaiian market. They have specifically using revenue grade CTs so that they can get a very sensitive read on what goes out so that there's zero export to the grid if so desired. But yeah, it's all qualified for the Hawaiian market, which is probably the most rigorous in terms of zero export self-consumption. And also you can set it for consuming if the batteries are full, you can also export. So there's a couple options there for applications.
Great. And for Chris and Lynn here, we also have the question about whether or not you can stack the batteries together in order to get double the storage capacity.
We will have the ability to have 2 batteries to a single SolarEdge inverter in August. The product development should be finalized by then, but until then, we're looking at just 1 RESU to 1 inverter.
And just to clarify on that, with the addition, so you can install a system with 1 battery, and then in August you can buy the new battery and add that to the system with the old battery. That should be a functionality that should be compatible. So if you have a system where somebody wants 2 batteries but they want to act now, you can install the one and then come back in several months and install the next one.
Great. I guess lastly, we might have touched on this before, but we have gotten a number of questions coming in asking about microinverters and the ability to AC couple with microinverters. Lynn, you already touched on this, really the compatibility with SolarEdge only, but if you wanted to explain that any further, we were just getting a couple of questions about that as well.
Right now, the limitation is with the SolarEdge storage products.
So I can this is again not necessarily Lynn's space, but you can technically AC couple the SolarEdge system with other AC inverters, like microinverters, but it would not charge the battery when the grid is down. It would charge the battery, use TOU discharge, could do self-consumption, but could not charge the battery when the grid's down. It would discharge. The battery could discharge and supply backup loads, but it would not, if there's a multiple day, outage, would not allow for solar to come in, and also not, the system does not allow for generator hookup either. So it's an either or there too, in either case. But microinverters would be somewhat redundant in this case. So the SolarEdge system has optimizers under every module, so that's typically how you do this. So you have optimizers for the modules, and then you have the battery hooking up to the same unit that the solar is going into. So it's a DC coupled system. In the case where you would want to AC couple this, again, you can't. It's not going to charge off grid. But it would provide all the other supports that an AC coupled system would provide. And again, in further questions on that, I would direct you to SolarEdge.
Perfect. Chris or Lynn, you guys have any more final comments here? I think this has been very helpful to get a sense of the LG Chem battery and also the installation requirements. Like I said, the handout is going to be very helpful to follow up on this webinar and really go through the details of the test for the DOT. But Chris or Lynn, any other final comments?
Not too much. Just don't hesitate to reach out for any questions or support. We'd be happy to work with you.
Great. Well, we greatly appreciate everyone's time. Thank you for joining us here today. And like Lynn said, don't hesitate to reach out to either her or Chris. Numbers are there on the screen. And also, don't hesitate to reach out to your CivicSolar account manager after this. I'm sure everyone has more questions, potentially about availability and pricing, and we are happy to dive into that with you. Don't hesitate to reach out to your account manager. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.